Welcome to the deep dive. It's really great to have you with us today. Our mission today is to, well, unpack a massive, highly anticipated moment in sports that just went down this weekend.
Right, April 11, 2026, a huge weekend.
Exactly. We are looking at Tyson Fury's explosive return to the boxing ring against Arslanbek Makhmudov and, the incredibly tense ringside drama that unfolded literally the second the final bell rang.
Yeah, we have a really huge stack of sources to help us make sense of this very chaotic weekend.
Huh.
We are pulling from articles across Fox Sports, CBS Sports, and covers.com.
Which we need because there is a lot to cover.
Oh, totally. We are going to dig deeply into the raw, clinical, statistical data from CompuBox too. And we're also pulling directly from the post-fight press conference transcripts and the interviews.
Yeah, because usually when you think about a sports comeback, there's this expectation of a very simple, predictable equation. It's like fixing a car.
Right, you just swap the parts.
Yeah. You take the time off, you heal the knee, you rebuild the stamina, you put the engine back together, and you are good to go. The physical part is just this visible, linear process.
You complete the physiological checklist, and the athlete returns to the field. It's supposed to be really straightforward.
But then you step into the world of heavyweight boxing.
Okay.
And specifically into the mind of Tyson Fury, and suddenly that simple equation is thrown completely out the window.
Completely out the window.
I mean, this isn't just a sports recap we're doing today. This is a story about the complex psychology of a comeback, the hard data behind a tactical masterclass, and, well, a decade-long rivalry that just collided head-on with real-world human tragedy.
It is a lot to process.
It really is. Okay,
Yeah.
let's unpack this. We have
Yeah.
to start with the setup because the stakes coming into Saturday night were just sky high.
They really were. You really have to look at where Tyson Fury was mentally and physically coming into this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, he is 37 years old now.
Right,
And he had been sitting on a massive 16-month layoff.
right.
And that layoff wasn't some, celebratory victory lap. It came right on the heels of back-to-back losses to Alexander Usyk.
Which actually triggered his fifth career retirement. I mean, it feels like he retires every other year at this point.
He really does.
And critics across the boxing world were essentially writing the obituary on his career. Like, the prevailing narrative was that his legs were gone, his legendary head movement had just vanished, and he was firmly in the twilight of his time in the sport.
Yeah, and then look at who he chooses for his big return at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah.
He doesn't pick like a soft touch. He picks Arslanbek Makhmudov.
Which is wild.
It is. This is a 36-year-old, 6'6" heavyweight with a 21-2 record. But the number that really jumps off the page is the 19 knockouts.
Wow.
Yeah, they call him a rugged bear wrestling knockout artist. He has this plodding, very upright style, but his raw power is just terrifying.
Right.
I mean, the odds had Fury as a heavy -600 favorite, but Makhmudov's power was a massive, dangerous wild card.
Oh, for sure. And the contrast between these two couldn't have been more stark. And it honestly started before the first bell even rang.
Oh, the ring walk.
So ring walks were like transmissions from two entirely different planets. Makhmudov comes out with zero pomp, zero circumstance. He literally marches to the ring to the sound of an actual air raid siren.
It's chilling.
It really is.
It is pure intimidation. Like, he is signaling that he is there for violence, nothing else.
Right. And meanwhile, Fury is making his Netflix debut, and he walks out in front of 60,000 fans at Tottenham to the Manchester City anthem, Blue Moon.
Which is so funny if you know the context.
Exactly. To understand how wild that is, you have to realize the fierce tribal rivalry in UK football. I mean, Manchester United and Manchester City absolutely despise each other.
And Fury's a United fan.
A massive, lifelong Manchester United fan, but he deliberately played the City anthem just to pay tribute to British boxing legend Ricky Hatton.
That is just classic Fury.
It is. He is out there dancing, there are fireworks, flames are shooting into the sky, and he is even wearing this fat suit-style Ricky Hatton outfit. He is an absolute masterclass troll and the ultimate showman all rolled into one.
He really completely changes the atmospheric pressure of a stadium.
Yeah.
But underneath all that theater, there was a very serious question about his matchmaking.
Yeah, I really struggled with that matchmaking choice when I first looked at the sources. To me, it felt like a legendary, aging musician deciding to play their big comeback gig.
Okay, yeah.
But instead of sitting on a stool and doing a safe acoustic set to warm up their voice, they decide to share the stage and try to outplay a hardcore heavy metal band.
Right.
Like, stepping into the ring with a 6'6" knockout artist feels incredibly reckless for a guy carrying 16 months of ring rust.
Well, what's fascinating here is that fighters at the absolute pinnacle of the sport don't pick opponents by accident. They deliberately choose specific stylistic matchups to answer internal questions about themselves.
Wait, I'm looking at Makhmudov's style here. He basically walks forward like a human tank in a straight line.
Exactly.
So doesn't fighting a guy with zero subtlety actually make it easier for Fury to test his evasion without, getting tricked by complex feints?
You hit the nail on the head. If Fury fights a fast, slick, highly technical boxer, he might look terrible just because of the style clash. And he wouldn't learn much about his own physical decline.
Ah, I see.
But against a brawler who marches straight forward looking to land one massive bomb, that is the ultimate, uncluttered test of footwork and defensive reflexes.
So he's testing his own body.
Exactly. Fury needed to know if his legs were still there. He was essentially asking himself, can I still slip, slide, and make a highly dangerous man miss on my terms?
And within the first few rounds, the data tells us he absolutely got his answer. Because the narrative completely shifted from, will Fury survive this reckless idea, to how on earth did Fury absolutely dismantle this guy?
It really was a clinic.
The scorecards were historically lopsided. We are talking 120, 108, 120, 108, and 119, 109. Out of 36 scored rounds across 3 judges, Fury only lost a single round on 1 card.
It was a clinical dissection. And the raw data from CompuBox paints a really vivid picture of just how completely Fury neutralized the threat.
Yeah, I want to dig deep into those CompuBox numbers because they genuinely blew my mind. Looking at the categorical leaders in boxing right now, Makhmudov averages the fewest total punches landed per round.
Which is crazy for a heavyweight.
Right. He lands just 7.1 punches a round. He also lands the fewest power punches per round at a mere 5.2.
And the defensive statistics are even more staggering.
Yeah, he allows the highest opponent total connect percentage in the sport, 38.1%. And he allows the highest opponent power punch connect percentage, a massive 46.4%.
It's really hard to win with those numbers.
Seriously. By the 9th round of this fight, Fury had landed 106 punches, and Makhmudov had landed just 44. I am reading these stats, allowing 46.4% of power punches to land, and I'm thinking, that is like a soccer goalie who is actively ducking out of the way of the ball.
That is a great way to put it.
If you are absorbing nearly half of the heavy lever thrown at you, how do you even make it to the 12th round?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we need to clearly define the difference between raw durability and actual ring craft.
Okay.
Makhmudov clearly has durability. He has a chin made of absolute granite, and he could absorb an incredible amount of kinetic energy without going unconscious. Nobody questions his toughness,
Right.
but he severely lacks ring craft.
Which means what exactly in this context?
Ring craft is it's the spatial awareness, the footwork, the understanding of the geometry of the ring. It is the ability to dictate where the fight happens. Makhmudov couldn't find the target because Fury was never where he was supposed to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Fury used his incredibly high boxing IQ to just manage the entire landscape of the fight.
And according to the post-fight presser, Fury didn't even want a quick knockout. He explicitly said he didn't want a 1-round knockout against a bum. He intentionally wanted 12 valuable rounds to shake off the rust.
Yeah, he needed the rounds.
So instead of sitting down on his punches and risking a brawl where Makhmudov could, catch him with a lucky power shot, he treated it like a highly paid, extended sparring session.
He employed a very specific taxing strategy. He used a thudding jab to dictate distance, threw sharp right uppercuts whenever Makhmudov lunged forward off balance, and most importantly, he utilized heavy body shots in the clinch.
That clinching aspect always looks so messy to a casual viewer. It's just 2 huge guys hugging. But it is actually a brutal tactic, isn't it? Like he's leaning all 6'9" of his weight onto the guy.
Let's unpack the physics of that clinch, because it is physiological warfare.
Yeah.
When a 270-pound man drapes his upper body over your neck and shoulders, your lower back and your legs have to support both your weight and his.
Oh, man. That sounds exhausting.
It is. If he does that for 30 or 40 seconds every round, your leg muscles start burning through oxygen at an accelerated rate. Lactic acid builds up.
So they just lose all their power.
Exactly. By round 8 or 9, a power puncher like Makhmudov physically cannot generate the kinetic chain required to throw a knockout blow because his legs are completely dead. Fury wasn't just hitting him, he was systematically draining the oxygen out of his opponent's body.
Wow. So by the 10th round, Makhmudov is wobbling, and by the 11th, he is completely spent, entirely by design.
Yeah.
It was an intellectual victory just as much as a physical one.
A total masterclass in energy management.
So Fury secures this brilliant victory inside the ropes, but The second the final bell rings, it becomes painfully clear that Makhmudov was just the warm-up act.
Right.
The real main event was sitting ringside.
The man sitting there calmly, just filming the fight on his phone.
Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
AJ is sitting just a few feet away, and Fury doesn't even wait to catch his breath. He calls him out directly from the middle of the ring.
It was so dramatic.
He grabs the mic, points down, and says, 10 years in the making, let's fucking dance. The crowd of 60,000 goes absolutely wild.
The energy in the stadium was electric, but Joshua's reaction was a complete void of emotion. He refused to step over the ropes. He just sat there, staring silently, letting the silence hang until someone finally handed him a microphone.
And his response was so pointed, so devoid of the usual boxing hype. He just looked at Fury and said, I'm the boss. You work for me. I'm the landlord. I'll sit across the ring from you in due time.
Which is the one thing guaranteed to infuriate Tyson Fury.
Oh, he lost his mind over it. In the post-fight press conference, Fury went totally off script. He called AJ a clout chaser. He called him a shithouse who was shell-shocked and didn't want no smoke.
He really went in on him.
He did. Fury was operating at a level of 10 out of 10, pure, aggressive showmanship. But to understand this interaction, we really have to pause and look at the heavy, real-world context behind why Anthony Joshua was acting so subdued.
It is a crucial piece of the puzzle that makes this entire exchange feel very heavy. Earlier this year, Anthony Joshua survived a horrific car accident in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It was a severe crash that tragically resulted in the deaths of 2 of his trainers and very close friends.
It is an unimaginably profound loss. You can't just bounce back from losing your friends like that.
You carry that grief into every room you enter. In a later interview, Joshua addressed Fury's call-out, and you could hear the emotional weight he is under.
What did he say?
He said that in his heart, he would fight Tyson Fury tomorrow. But he made it clear he has to go through formal negotiations, that he isn't going to just jump into a ring like a performing monkey for clout.
When you lay those two realities side by side, it feels incredibly jarring. Here's where it gets really interesting. I look at Fury's aggressive posturing, screaming for AJ to fight him right that second, and it feels like a boss forcing a coworker to immediately take on the biggest, most high-stress project of their career the very day after they've suffered a life-altering personal tragedy.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
When you view it through that lens, you have to ask, is Fury being a brilliant old-school boxing promoter building a mega fight, or is he being brutally tone-deaf to human suffering?
The uncomfortable reality is that he is likely being both. Boxing requires a ruthless, relentless promotion machine to generate the millions of dollars these fighters demand.
Right.
It is an industry built on conflict and manufactured hate. But the sport often collides awkwardly with the fragility of real life. What we saw ringside were 2 men existing in entirely different emotional universes.
It was like a split-screen movie where the actors don't realize they're in different genres.
Exactly. Joshua is anchored by profound trauma, navigating the heavy, sobering reality of grief. Meanwhile, Fury is riding the absolute peak of an adrenaline high, basking in the roar of 60,000 people, desperately trying to secure his ultimate legacy.
Yeah.
Joshua's measured, grief-adjacent response highlighted just how manic Fury's theatrical showmanship really was in that moment.
And that intense emotional disconnect between the 2 men makes the business side of this even more complicated. It brings us to the ultimate question. What is next for the Gypsy King?
It's hard to say.
Because his future in the sport seems completely hinged on a collision with a man who is currently not ready to play the game.
Based on the sources, Fury is currently signed to a 3-fight deal for this year. He clearly wants to stay highly active now that he feels his legs are back.
But he is incredibly rigid about who those fights are against. He flat out refused to entertain fighting what he called up-and-comers or schoolboys.
Right.
He specifically named and dismissed younger heavyweight threats like Daniel Dubois and Moses Itama. He did wish his old friend Ajit Kabayel luck, which was a nice moment, but he made it explicitly clear he will never fight him.
He feels he has nothing left to prove against the next generation. The risk-to-reward ratio for fighting a hungry 25-year-old just doesn't make sense for a 37-year-old billionaire.
And he gave the boxing world a massive ultimatum to back that up. He stated, it is Anthony Joshua next, or nothing. He mentioned that if AJ doesn't happen, he might entertain a trilogy fight with Usyk, but otherwise he is walking away. He will retire for a 6th time.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I have to quote his exact words because they paint such a vivid, almost alarming picture. He said, I'll eat 1,000 Easter eggs, go up to 35 stone, and I'm out.
It gets a laugh in a press conference setting, but anyone who has followed Fury's career knows it points to a very real, very dangerous historical pattern for him.
He actually opened up about his mental health struggles in that exact same press conference. He talked candidly about how he's been one step out of the mental institution in the past. He openly referenced his previous suicide attempts.
It was very raw.
And he talked about how emotionally poignant it was for him to be back in the ring, feeling the electricity of the crowd because of how dark his life gets without it.
He was remarkably vulnerable about his own psychological fragility in front of the world's media.
So what does this all mean? It's this massive paradox that I find so hard to wrap my head around. On one hand, you have a man who is at the absolute pinnacle of global sports, performing athletic masterclasses under the brightest lights imaginable.
Right?
On the other hand, he freely admits he is entirely capable of isolating himself, eating 1,000 chocolate eggs, gaining hundreds of pounds, and spiraling into a catastrophic depression. Why does it seem so impossible for an elite generational athlete like him to find a healthy, normal middle ground?
This raises an important question about the nature of extreme performance and the minds that seek it out. The chaotic, violent, deeply high-stakes environment of a professional boxing ring is, ironically, the only place Tyson Fury seems to find rigid structure and mental peace.
The ring is the only place the world makes sense to him.
You see this in individuals who operate at the extremes of human endeavor. When Fury has a massive target like an Anthony Joshua mega fight on the horizon, he has a singular reason to wake up, a reason to endure grueling training camps, a reason to stay disciplined.
Right, it gives him purpose.
The extreme, electric highs of the sport act as his primary coping mechanism for the extreme, dark lows of his own mind. He needs the manufactured monster of a massive sporting event to keep his own internal monsters at bay.
Wow.
Without the chaos of the ring, the silence of normal, everyday life becomes deafening for him.
That is profound. It frames the entire weekend in a completely different light. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a survival mechanism. To distill all of this down for you, Tyson Fury proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that his technical brilliance and his ring craft have not faded.
Not at all.
The CompuBox data, the movement, the pacing, it all shows he executed an absolute tactical masterclass over a very dangerous knockout artist. He didn't just survive his ring rust. He used it as an intellectual exercise to prove his defensive legs were still there.
And he proved it.
And now, the ball is squarely in Anthony Joshua's court for what would arguably be the biggest fight in British boxing history.
You have two legends, both navigating their own incredible personal hurdles, seemingly on an inevitable collision course, provided the business of boxing doesn't get in the way.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to think about how you handle your own ring rust in life. When you take a long break from a skill, whether it's a creative passion, a specific sport, or a demanding career path, do you prefer to ease back in with a safe acoustic set? Or do you do what Tyson Fury did and immediately take on a 6'6", 250-pound challenge just to prove to yourself that you still have the magic?
How we choose to test our own limits often reveals more about our psychology than the actual results of the test.
It certainly does. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today. We know that Tyson Fury's entire mental equilibrium, his daily motivation, and his structural life currently hinge on fighting just one specific man. A man who, as we discussed, is currently navigating immense personal grief, processing profound trauma, and operating on a totally different emotional timeline. So what happens to the entire heavyweight division, and more importantly, what happens to Tyson Fury's own fragile state of mind if that contract never actually gets signed?
That's a scary thought.
Think about the psychological landscape. Sometimes healing the physical body and getting back in the ring is the easy part. Surviving the silence that comes when the cheering stops is the real fight.
A fight that continues long after the lights go out in the stadium.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Please like, share, and comment, and tell us what you think of the fight. Subscribe to get more content like this.